at least alleviate. Okay, let's start with Mr. Carrillo.
I think it's a good idea and a good concept. You have to base it on the cost of the project versus the cost of the disaster. In this case, I think it was somewhere in 37 billion, and then to build the construction of the dike is somewhere around 7 to 8 billion. But we're going to need the government, the federal government's help. No way around it. Galveston can't afford it. So yes, I do support it.
Thank you, Jerry Kinnear.
I absolutely support the Ike Dike. It's a series of gates that will close at the ship channel and down toward Freeport. It will protect not just Galveston, but it will protect all the industry up the ship channel. That's where your influence lies, that's where the money lies, and that's who wants this done also. There are 13 counties involved in the project now, and I think that with their help, and the champion that they're talking about is some senator or representative from this state who will champion it in Washington, because that's where the money's going to come from. But yes, I think the Ike Dike is a good idea. It certainly works in the Netherlands, and that's who's been looking at the Ike Dike for us.
Thank you. Carolyn Tarleton.
Yes, I do support the Ike Dike, and I do believe that we need to be working with the surrounding counties and with the federal government to help with the funding. I definitely think that City Council should do some long-term planning to see what all we would be able to make that reality for all of us, because it's important that we do get that. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheryl Rozier.
Well, I apologize for being redundant, but I agree as well. I do support the Ike Dike. It is something that will require regional support, a champion at a much higher level than the city of Galveston. The funding must come up from up the freeway as well, and our industry will benefit from that. And I believe that it's a good plan. Dr. Mayoral, I've seen his presentation more than one time. He's obviously looked into this very seriously and been to the Netherlands several times. The other upside that's kind of interesting to me is as well that in the Netherlands, their project is actually seen as a tourist attraction as well. So it's just an added little interest. Thanks.
Thank you. Elizabeth Beaton.
The downside to the Ike Dike is that it would require a hard structure all the way to the far end of the seawall, all the way to San Luis Pass. The seawall would have to be extended from 103rd Street all the way out there. And what the beach looks like now, between 61st and 103rd, that's what the beach would look like all the way to the end of the island. There wouldn't be any. The city is exploring the possibility of a levee, and a levee study that would provide protection for the core of the city without having to put a hard structure on our beaches to San Luis Pass. Where that study is being promoted by former employees of the Corps of Engineers, and the city is hoping to use some of its CDBG infrastructure money to fund it.
Thank you. Carlos Woods.
You know, George, it took me a little while to stand up because after Mr. Carrillo said it would cost nearly $40 billion with a B. $40 billion for Ike Dike.
No, he says that was the damage done by Ike relative to the cost of the Ike Dike, which you said was what, 4? Yeah.
48 million. Okay, all right, we come down to the end. All right, okay then. Get an understanding. Now, with that being said, I think that I perhaps could support that. Now, I'm not an engineer, and I do not know exactly what that would do to our neighboring cities, you know, in case of a hurricane, take City of Mark, or whatever, what that would happen over there. And I guess it would be something in conjunction, we all have to work together with it. So, at this particular time, George, I think I would support it, since he said it wasn't 35 billion.
Okay, they made a big difference, huh? That's a variance. That's what they call that. Okay, Cornelia Harris Banks.
Well, actually, I'm for whatever we can get, a levy or an IDA. I lost everything.
Well, that was a good answer. That's one of those straight from the heart answers, you know? Okay, now, earlier I gave you some handouts. This one's for everybody, okay? Take a look at the one with several pages and lots of addresses. Those addresses I gave you are the addresses of buyout properties on the West End that are now public property. Now, through special arrangements made between West End HOAs and the previous city manager, these properties are not required to be marked so that the public can know where they're located. Remember, they're now public land. Given the West End is now private property, and that ends much of what we thought of as beach access, do you intend to keep these properties without signage and hidden from the public? Let's start with Mayor Jaworski.
Well, that is the most specific question asked tonight. First time I've heard that or considered it. Let me just say this concept. I don't like the idea of these public buyouts. You know, if you're living on the front row, you have money, which means you are able to take risks. So my concern about these sort of buyouts goes to the beginning of the whole process. As far as signage, we have plenty of signage. We can easily make a sign and mark these as public space, if it makes sense. I mean, I can see that perhaps it would just be another visual blight. So I guess what I want to ask the person who wrote the question is, what's the purpose? Are we trying to gather public space? And if so, well, let's go about doing that. And hopefully the sign will say public beach.
Thank you. Bo Rollins.
I was against the public buyouts altogether. Living in Galveston, that's a risk you take, especially on your front row. As far as the signage goes, it's just one more thing we have to maintain and we have to oversee. And at this point in time, with the audits that are going on with City Hall, I would not recommend that we take on any more responsibility. So no, I'm not for putting any more signs up. No, I'm not for buyouts. And I would hope that we can remove the signs if we need to.
Thank you. Louis Rosen.
I am not sure about where the new ARP erosion response plan and the lineage is on these lots. So I'm a little bit confused as to where these are. I know that the front line of the West End property owner accounts for a little over 13% of the city's revenue from property tax. And I'm assuming that this is forward of those property lines, but I'm not sure.
Mr. Roof.
I think two issues are involved here. First of all, these properties, as I understand it, have already been bought out. They are public property, and the public should have access to them. If there is a place where we can put a park for those in the neighborhood, if there's places that are close to the beach where we can give more beach access, not less, I'd be all for that. And so I'd be interested in using those properties in the public's interest. But there's something much more serious going on, and that is has to deal with the Severance case and the area in the beach when we do have erosion due to sudden events. And that is that right now, with that potential private property there, if we have a storm, what I am not in favor of is spending a single dime of your taxpayer dollars on private property on the West End. I want to make sure that your tax dollars go to improve open beaches, like those on the seawall, which I intend to keep open if I'm elected mayor. I want to use your taxpayer dollars for public purposes.
Thank you. Okay, Cornelia Harris Banks.
My understanding, the buyouts were through FEMA, and maybe I'm wrong, but that was my understanding, was that the monies came from FEMA for the buyouts. My only concern was that there were folk who were in Central City who could not be part of the buyouts. And I understand the council did that so that there would not be any empty spots in the city. Because once you go into the buyout program, you can't build on that particular property. So I'm not aware of, I know where they are, Bermuda Beach. Beach Drive, so forth. But I'm not aware of the concern if FEMA bought them out, then you can't put anything back there anyway.
Thank you, Taurus Woods.
Okay, my position at this particular time, without having researched it, is that if it's public property, then it's public. And it should be accessible to the public. Now, in terms of the buyout, I'm trying to think, it seemed like that once that was occurred, that the land would have to be used for green space. So I would have to do some more studying on that. You all don't mind if I do some more studying and get back with you later, would you?
Thank you, Elizabeth Beaton.
Well, I tried to stop the buyouts. I was on council when the buyouts went through, and I was unsuccessful. Susan Fenewald and I voted against the buyouts. The other 5 members of council supported them. And the buyouts required the homeowners associations to enter into an agreement with the city, waiving the city's obligation to pay dues to the homeowners associations. And those agreements involve some restrictions on how the city can use those lots. And that varies from agreement to agreement. But subject to that, the city should analyze these lots and see if there are cases where they could be of use to the public, and if so, that we should do everything we can to utilize them that way. They can't be developed in perpetuity, ever, by federal law.
Thank you very much. Cheryl Rozier.
I didn't support the buyouts. I agree that if you buy beachfront property, your property rights are your property rights, but it's not our job to buy your house back from you when it's damaged. And as far as signage, to point out that the property is public now, I think once again that just gets into another issue of maintenance and dealing with something that isn't the highest and best use of the city's resources at this time. But as far as doing something with the properties, I do believe that it should be looked at as to how the properties could be reutilized. And yes, I do understand that it stays undeveloped for perpetuity as well.
Thank you, Cheryl. Carolyn Tarleton.
Yeah, I think we're all pretty much in agreement with this one. I would not have support the buyouts, and again, I agree with everything that's been said, so I'm just repeating it.
Jerry Kinnear.
I also don't support the buyouts. I understand that the property stays unused in its natural state for the rest of its existence or until it goes underwater. And I can't imagine what good signs would do out there. I would prefer to see no signs at all.
Mr. Corona.
No, I do not support the buyout. But I want to go back about talk about the parking issue. I was for the paid parking, but I changed my mind. And part of the reason why I changed my mind was this. I do a lot of research. So I went down to the Park Board of Trustees, and I wanted to know why they've taken a $250,000 building that could have been placed back on the tax rolls. It was owned by the county. It was owned by Galveston Banker Savings and Loan. But the thing that I discovered was the amount of money we spent on that building, almost with principal and interest, close to $7 million. But I have an information request, so I'll find that and I'll put it out on my blog. Thank you.
All right, we're going to have one more question before we go to the cleverly named closing remarks. And this one, of course, you've already heard the mayors on this one on several occasions, and the council candidates got this one last time, so we're going to give it to the council candidates this time. It's a very simple one. Are you for or against the current GHA amended housing plan? Cornelia.
Well, I can stand. That's the reason I was a little late tonight. I was there at GHA meeting, and I am for the new amended GHA plan. I think you heard what the mayor gave the actual statistics, And I can just say yes. It means that it is given something for everyone. It is not. So I think that it behooves everybody to read about it. I don't know if it's going to be in the paper next week or it has been, but I have the plan right here in front of me. If anybody wants to see me afterwards, I'll be more than happy to show it to you. But yes.
Thank you, Cornelia. Taurus Woods.
Short answer, yes.
Elizabeth Beaton.
Short answer, no.
Cheryl Rozier.
That was my short answer. This is my long answer.
Oh, wow, good, a sequel. Go forth.
I used to support a county-wide solution. Now I recognize this long after the storm, it's going to have to be a regional solution. The city simply cannot affirmatively further fair housing as federal law requires, which means that you can't concentrate poverty in low-income census tracts and rebuild 569 public housing units on the island. We should have started at the beginning talking to the other county municipalities about negotiating with them to take some public housing, but that window is closed. What we're going to have to do now is go to the Houston-Galveston Area Council and ask them to go to the public housing authorities that already exist throughout the region and give the money to them for them to add public housing in their housing authority regions.
Thank you. And now Cheryl Rozier.
I do not support GHA's plan. I did not support one-for-one replacement of public housing. I initially did support a county-wide plan, and she's right. It doesn't work that way either. And the other question that came up at the last meeting was the issue of tax credits for the GHA development. And based on the fact that I don't support the plans in the first place, I obviously can't support the use of tax credits for the mixed income use property that they want to build.
Thank you, Cheryl. Carolyn Carlton.
I think everybody knows my stance on this one now, because when I jumped in the race on March 5th, that is the reason why I did, the deciding factor, and that is I do not support the GHA plan as it stands. I do believe that vouchers are the best way right now. I do believe that individuals have the right to be able to find the best job possible and then pick the place where they choose to live and to educate their children. I don't think that sticking them in project housing or calling it mixed income, whatever you want to call it, it's still project housing. It's public housing that we need to stop saying we're going to do because it does not work. We need the vouchers, and the vouchers are the way to get people on lower income into middle income housing. Eventually, I believe that's the way we should go.
Thank you. Jerry Kinnear.
I have always said that I supported vouchers. I do want to say that at the last Pachyderm meeting, I had asked a gentleman who was there named Mr. Neves, who's running for a county office. He was the president of HGAC when the conciliation agreement was reached. He told us unequivocally that the money for all 13 counties would be lost if we don't build public housing back. Whether that's true or not, he said that in a meeting. I would not like to see us and all the other counties lose that money. I think it would behoove us to find out if that's based in fact or not.
Thank you. And now Mr. Corona.
I do not support public housing as it is today. I do just support the regional or MTOs move to opportunity vouchers. As far as Mr. Nees is concerned, bull. Let's challenge him. I don't believe that the statement is correct. Yes, he was there, but we didn't sign that agreement. And again, I'm very upset because in District 5, the President Mayor and Ms. Pachetti, through the tax method, we now have 448 units. That's not acceptable. And I think we need to look at that close because a duck is a duck. I don't care what you call it, public housing, Section 8, tax credit, it's all the same. And we're gonna have another Pirates Cove out at Herds Lane within, I say, next 2 or 3 years. It's gonna happen, folks. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And now it's time for each one of the candidates to address you all. They have 2 minutes for their closing remarks, and this is where you gig them. This is where you get their vote, okay? I'm gonna stand over here and take notes in case I ever want to do this. I was kidding, I promise. Okay. Cornelia Harris Banks, District 1. They work as a team.
First, I want to thank the Galveston Alliance of Iowa Neighborhoods and my neighborhood, Kempner neighborhood. I would like to let you know that I am interested in a better community. You can bank on banks for housing, for adequate and affordable housing and education, learning opportunities and jobs for all, and also that I am interested in public safety. I am interested in protection of our homes and our community. Again, you can bank on banks for a better community.
Thank you. Cornelia Harris Banks, candidate for District 1, and now Taurus Woods.
Okay, thank you. George, I would like to personally thank you again. Mr. Bill was our president of our gang. Most important, I would like to thank each of you for coming out and taking an interest in your government. And I think that you should give yourself an applause. I also believe that each of us that's up here, we all love Galveston. We just have different ways and different means of going by trying to improve Galveston. We all want a cleaner city. We all want a better infrastructure. We all want affordable housing. But we just have different ways to go about obtaining those particular goals. We sit in council meetings for hours, and we all are volunteering our time to do this. We get paid absolutely nothing monetarily, but the satisfaction of seeing future generations, future children grow and prosper as well as our city, that is our intention. I am pro-business. I will fight for business. I am public safety. I'm a former police officer, firefighter. So based on my background, I have always been in public service. With all that, I have one thing I would like to do. I would like to round this up with a comment that was made in 30 seconds by Greg Ruth. Greg Ruth stated that one of the worst things that can happen to a child is to grow up in public housing. I say one of the worst things that can happen to a mother and her child is to grow up homeless. That's what I say. And whatever they turn out for as public housing, we got to understand that that's one issue amongst a number of issues that's facing Galveston. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Taurus Woods, District 1 candidate, and now Elizabeth Beaton, District 3.
Thank you all for coming. I know you wouldn't be here if you didn't love our city and if you didn't believe in the possibility of good government. And I hope you will elect a council this May that will reach consensus on a few practical goals and bring all resources to bear to achieve some tangible improvements in our city, such as in the area of infrastructure and transportation. Let's get all our sidewalks in place, repaired and completed. Install the bike trails we've been promised for years by the Houston-Galveston Area Council. Improve the functionality of our bus and trolley system. And add medians on Harborside to connect the port and downtown. We need to upgrade Broadway. This is in the area of economic development. We need to upgrade Broadway. It's holding our entire city and our shopping districts back. We need a rental inspection program for multifamily complexes. And we need to get our economic development director on board and adopt a smart, consistent economic development strategy. And let's institute a process to assess impact fees for water and sewer connections for new development. That's a $15 million tab that no outside state or federal agency is going to pay for us. In the area of parks, we should upgrade the McGuire-Dent Recreation Center, which is a resounding success and deserves to be taken to the next level. And we need to build a city pool at last. Let's get some practical goals accomplished and leave a tangibly better city to our children 2 years from now. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth Beaton, District 3. Cheryl Roser, District 3.
My passion for a thriving Galveston is a major reason for my candidacy. I've spent 12 years living and volunteering for positions at the city and neighborhood level and seen issues continue to go unresolved and further deteriorate with the current halt at City Hall for progress. We need council people that understand that they are elected to run a business, and without sustainable economic development and the ability to compromise, how can we grow and prosper? We have to have the political will to clean up our island through more strict code enforcement, change the economic climate by having business believe we are open through our actions and support, and bring all stakeholders in Galveston to a table that is discussion-friendly. It is time for an intense change in the way all city and community entities communicate with each other and work together for a unified vision and a plan to keep our city on target. I want to be that council person that grows those positive relationships for the improved quality of life of all of Galveston. My top priority on City Council will be to maintain and improve our quality of life by fostering business development and growth, working for continued safer neighborhoods, a cleaner island with a proven recycling plan, sustained improvement of the city's infrastructure, and I will use my passion to focus on a more resilient Galveston. I will vote for progress. This is a promise we can fulfill if we have the people willing to take a positive look forward and believe we can do better. I believe in Galveston. We have to do better, and I think we can. I think we have to. My name is Cheryl Roser, and I ask for your help, your prayers, and your vote.
Thank you. Carolyn Carlton, District 5.
Thank you. I would like to say that I'm very proud to be endorsed by the Galveston Municipal Police Department. I'm also very pleased that I've been endorsed by the Coalition of Concerned Taxpayers, the Galveston County Apartment Association, and the Bar and Tavern Association. I also wanted to let you know that I do believe that I am the candidate that is in touch with the current critical issues facing the city of Galveston and its citizens. I have been and continue to be in the trenches alongside my fellow Galvestonians in taking on City Hall and in the ongoing daily battles we have to fight in order to survive and rebuild in Galveston. My knowledge and experience in starting a business from the ground up, being an employee, maintaining and growing a business in Galveston will bring a new perspective to the City Council. My working with businesses and business owners over the last 17 years in fighting City Hall over unfair ordinances that affect economic development in this city, and also with my ongoing work in assisting residents and businesses with their insurance claims after Ike. helping Galvestonians to reestablish their businesses and assisting in rebuilding of their homes has given me unique knowledge, strength, and experience that I can bring to City Hall. I do believe that I am the candidate that is the one that's most in touch. I would appreciate your support, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Carolyn Dalton. And now Barry Kinnear, District 5.
Thank you for coming. I'd like you to know that I'm endorsed by our heroic firefighters and that I scored the highest in the Chamber's test, if you will, for business in my district. District 5 has diversified needs. And has a diversified income group. It is an equal mix of commercial and residential properties, and it has miles of wetlands as well as beaches. But we have neglected infrastructure and storm-damaged properties that must be fixed. We must build more affordable, mixed, middle-class housing, encourage new businesses, incentivize development, and streamline our permitting process so that it is